Good afternoon and welcome to AI Would Agree from our temporary new location on the Modular Analytics Company's homepage for a change. So not sure if I'll get the same audience I normally get, but hopefully more regular listeners will spot the difference and tune in. Like it feels more like a TV show every time I do this. It's very bizarre. So the reason we're on a different channel today, technically, is because actually I thought we're about to start to introduce some of you to some of the team here at TMAC. We're a very passionate bunch, as you can probably tell if you know me in the slightest. And today's first guest from the team is our Head of Customer Success and Partnerships, Glynn Jones, who also, I'm going to point this out before we even get started, also happens to be a semi-professional DJ who is good out there. So I knew I'd throw you slightly by it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Paul.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very good. If I'd have known about that, I would have played a bit of background music, a bit of 90s house music or something. But yeah, never mind. There's always next time.
Well, I was actually thinking about getting you to give us an even more fancier intro music, which I've only had for the last 2 or 3 months. I should have got you to do it in the first place. Yeah. No, thanks very much for joining us, Glynn. Appreciate it. It's a little bit away from the normal day in the life of Glynn Jones, but as I start out the show with everybody else, I don't see any reason to treat you any differently. So unfortunately for you, so how did you first get into the world of contact centers, Glynn?
Just through the same route as everybody else, working on a golf course construction on the other side of the world, just the standard transition into contact centers. So yeah, I finished uni, traveled a bit, worked out in Australia for a few years, then came back to the UK at the kind of when the financial crash was, 2008, 2009, perfect timing. So I was looking for roles for quite a while. And yeah, ended up, a couple of years later, getting a job for an outsourcing company based in Manchester. Very much, it was a brand new business to the UK, albeit it was pretty big globally. But it was one of those companies where start as a team leader and very quickly the opportunities kind of came to do a variety of different things. So yeah, kind of grew into the business there for a few years, which was great, and had some really good mentors which made a massive difference at the time and really helped me to learn everything that I needed to know about contact centers, because we've all rang them for years and years and years, but kind of working on the other side behind the curtain was slightly different. So yeah, I had some really good people, Steve Crew and Will McAllister, when I was working at Aegis, and yeah, kind of went from there really.
Fantastic. I think it's probably safe to say that most of us, when we're on conversations with clients and partners, we talk a lot about how it's contact center technology for contact center people, right? And you're a prime example of that. What, other than the obvious relationships with the rest of the team that brought you to TMAC, what is it kind of about TMAC that really kind of speaks to you personally? What's the parts of it that really light your fire?
Yeah, so my background is operational, so it's very much the kind of people side. Albeit, in kind of operational management, you've got financial targets and you've got customer focused targets, but ultimately the people that enable you to hit that. The most important part of any operation is the people. And for me, it was always about enabling them to be the best they possibly could be through schemes to ensure that it was a great place to work, to ensuring that people had the right skills and experiences to do their role and the training that they needed, but augmenting that now with technology that enables them to really be the best that they can be and have all of the tools and experiences and skills at their fingertips. So it was an introduction to Jimmy a few years ago where it kind of started, and that was fascinating for me to see the way that data can really support an agent. We talk about data at a macro level and at a business level, and how many customers have you got, and what's your NPS score, and how many calls do you get a day. But how can you use some of that to enable agents to just be better on the call that they're on? And that was the bit that kind of really attracted me to kind of talk to TMAC, and hence where I am now.
Yeah, fantastic. How long is it now that you've been with us, Glynn? Feels like
it's about a year.
Yeah, it's been as I would imagine a lot of startups and young businesses are. It's definitely a roller coaster ride that's got some severe highs and some terrible lows sometimes, but thankfully more highs than lows. Certainly for the time that I've been here. You make me feel old, Glynn, because I've been here 2.5 years now. So really, it's been 2.5 years.
You'll get your gold watch soon, I would have thought.
I was talking with Jimmy about whether I was coming on board as a consultant contractor or whether I was coming on board for a wage. It's been a moment. I guess a lot of your early experience with TMAC, the modular analytics company, however, just for everybody who's watching this, we refer to ourselves as TMACers, just like all the brands have their own names for their own teams. We very rarely call ourselves the modular analytics company because it's took me 2.5 years to be able to get that to roll off my tongue. It is a horrendous name to say, especially at 5 o'clock on a Friday morning, to anybody I'm talking to, especially if I'm talking to Australia. So your early experiences with TMAC, I guess were a lot around next best action and enabling agents to drive consistent outcomes. Do you want to kind of talk us through a little bit, like what is next best action for those who aren't quite as familiar with it as the others, and kind of what you've seen TMAC drive through that?
Yeah, look, my experience of it is getting the right product to the right customer at the right time, and using data to inform that process that an agent follows to ensure that, the customer they're speaking to now, what is the products that are going to be most applicable for this customer? And that really enables you to cut down on things like exacerbated conversations where you're trying to sell something to somebody that has got no interest in buying it. It's not relevant to them. So it's just ensuring that you're speaking to customers about things that they're interested in. It means that you're getting the right products for them. They leave happy because they've got the products that are relevant to them. And the business is happy because you're not wasting a load of time talking to customers that aren't interested. They might be interesting. I don't know. Depends on the conversation. But that aren't interested in those particular products. You're wasting their time. You're wasting your time. So yeah, that's primarily the real advantage that I've seen of using next best action.
And I think, when I talk with people about, obviously our next best action capability is called ACT, formerly Playbook, depending on who we're speaking to. So ACT is brilliant on its own. Where I see a lot of differentiation in the marketplace is the ability to combine that with conversation analytics to understand, how effectively it's being used. Because I think as with all technology, you've already kind of commented, contact centers are a people business fundamentally, and people will either accept change or they'll not accept change. And sometimes they need a little bit of coercion and support to get on that journey. Change with people, not to people. So we support them on that. I guess like that conversation analytics piece is crucial to getting it implemented well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Change is tough. I've come from working for a lot of businesses where they've been going for a long time doing really great things, but the world has changed dramatically in my career lifetime, and it's only going to get faster and faster going forward. So it's about kind of embracing that. I'm sure you hear this all the time, people coming on, Paul, saying we've got to embrace change and we've got to kind of go with it. But I think for some people, it's far easier than others. And it's how do we support the people that maybe don't like change as much as others to go on that journey. And it's about understanding the value that the change can have to them and how they can benefit from it. And I think, you referenced there kind of conversational analytics, but it's kind of showing where you've changed the process or where you've changed the way that you deal with a certain person, this is the outcome that you can get, and this is the quantifiable benefit to that end customer. And I think as you can take people on that journey and give them that insight into the little tweaks and change they can make, and when we make a big change to a process, this is how it can help you. I think it's massively beneficial in helping to embed that. And seeing who's following the changes and who isn't, and where they're not, how can we go and support them, which is what it's all about, and giving them that extra support and guidance.
I guess it's almost like a version of customer journey mapping, but aimed at agents specifically, to see where they've fallen off the path that you'd want them to follow, and also, I guess, understanding why they're not following the path, because where there's a significant amount of agents who aren't following the path, perhaps there's a valid reason why they're not following the path.
Yeah.
Good to kind of get that. I guess it all kind of stems from being able to evidence agents' own metrics to them on a daily basis, and that's kind of one of the things I'm super passionate about, coming from a retail background, is giving people the information they need to be able to make their own choices in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely, and having visibility of how you're doing and how you're performing and where you can potentially improve and change is absolutely invaluable. I said before, data's everywhere in contact centers, but how do you make it actionable, and how do you give the agents the ability to see where they sit and where the areas that they can focus on? I mean, we have a coaching product, which I don't know whether I could say it's my favorite product. Am I allowed to say that?
Well, you're allowed to say it.
Am I? Okay. Yeah, it's my favorite product. Yeah, so that's good. So it's just the one that resonates with me most because of my background in kind of operations and seeing gaps where you train people over a 2, 3, 4 week period when they start, and then they just fall into a standard. You get a 1-to-1 every month. You might get a bit of coaching here and there, but before you know it, some people are either flying, but there's other people that might be struggling a bit. And where it tends to go is, that's a performance management conversation. We need to now put this person on a performance improvement plan or whatever it is. And that's a horrendous experience for both the team leader to have to go through, because they probably think, I could have supported this person a bit more and I could have done, something differently. But for a lot of companies, it goes down that performance management route. But it's all about upskilling people, training people, coaching people to improve. And that's where the coach platform really comes in, because it can see those slight dips in performance and enable a team leader to go and have an intervention and go, it looks like you're struggling with this here this week or this month. Let's sit down. Let me talk you through some ways that I can support you to improve, and let's do it together, and let's go on that journey and try and improve. So yeah, for me, it's always about that upskilling, improvement, coaching people, and giving them the opportunities to be the best that they can be. And that's why the coach platform is the best of all the platforms, and my personal it's not the best of all the platforms, but it's my personal favorite.
As long as we don't get talking about football, we're all right.
Yeah, let's go there.
Well, I think you're right, and I think one of the things that I talk to people a lot about is the reason a lot of coaching, in my eyes, fails. And this is cross-industry. It's not even contact center industry specific. This is a lot of coaching fails because we don't put enough time into it. Yeah. I think in the contact center industry, I think there is a lot of time put into it, but it's spent. Can I use the word squandered? It's squandered looking at reports and analysing who you need to coach, because you want to have the best effect. You want to get to the right people. You want to have the most effective conversations. Yeah. And to your point, kind of people drowning in data. So you've got, I don't know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they reckon about 150 to 180 Excel spreadsheets to run their contact centre. How do you ever find a single source of truth amongst all of that? I've run businesses my background's retail. It runs heavily on Excel spreadsheets. Yeah. Other spreadsheets are available, and it was awful, because all it takes is for a comma to be missing or a plus to be missing or some logic to be wrong somewhere, and all of a sudden you're comparing apples and oranges. But I think it's fair to say that giving the gift of time back to coaches is something that it's nice for me to be able to go in, and there's kind of a social benefit to me talking to people. I'm not trying to just sell them a product because I want to take money off them or anything like that. It's genuinely, I want to help you make an impact on your people.
Spot on. Yeah, absolutely. It's like you've seen this, Paul, in your career. Like your most valuable time as a people leader is spending time with the people that you work with and your team, and spending time sitting behind spreadsheets and analysing and cross-referencing different reports coming from different places at different periods of time. It's just not really valuable. And the time that you can really add value as a people leader is coaching and supporting your team. So it's kind of making that shift between transferring the time that you'd normally spend analysing the data, having that at your fingertips and being told this is the person that you need to go and coach, go and spend that time with them. And all of a sudden you've saved hours and hours every day. I used to spend hours every day looking at reports first thing in the morning, checking in the middle of the day as to how we were getting on and having to review the data from the morning and then doing the same in the afternoon. And you'd inevitably get to a position where you're going, somebody's really struggling today and they've had a really tough day because I can tell because I've got all these reports every hour, but I haven't got the time to go and talk to them because I'm spending the time analysing the reports and trying to talk to what my overall performance is. So yeah, it's a game changer, making that shift and turning that time from analysis into action.
And I think, some weeks back I had Craig Fern on the show, who's a sustainable mental health expert, and Craig works with a lot of contact centers as well as other businesses in that space. And one of the things he's a big advocate of is spending the time with the people. When you have coaching intervention, it's not always a constructive criticism first conversation. Sometimes it should be is there something going on, a personal intervention. What's going on in your personal life? To your point, if you haven't got the time to have the conversation, that's the bit that gets missed every single time. It's also important to know your people in a one-to-one time. So I always say to people when I'm talking to them, we're a technology company. That is so fundamentally what we empower people through, but it's not what we're about. What we're about is giving you that time back for you to be with your people and to increase the amount of human time that you've got within your business rather than kind of analysing reports.
Spot on.
So I guess kind of going back to your career, Glynn, you've been across quite a few different businesses, and especially now with TMAC, you've kind of worked with quite a lot of different industries and across a lot of verticals. What are the kind of key standouts for you right now in terms of how the challenges that we're seeing as a result of COVID, how are they kind of manifesting in a people capacity for you? Like, what's the most common things that you're seeing?
I think you touched upon it there, Paul, is the fact that, prior to COVID, I mean, the only contact centers I worked in were on-prem, everybody on site every day, your team sat in front of you, you can see everybody. And visual management is a big part of a team leader, ops manager's kind of skill set, the ability to see which people are, they don't look like they're having a good day today. I'll go over and see if they're all right. Or, such a person seems absolutely cock a hoop and is having an amazing day. You lose a lot of that from the remote working world that we currently find ourselves in. So there's been a massive shift with people, now working from home. They might not speak to somebody all day apart from the customers that are on the end of the line. They might not speak to their line manager. A Teams message is nice, but it doesn't really beat being in the office and kind of speaking to people. But there's the offset of you don't have to commute anywhere, save a fortune on getting on trains and spending a fortune in Starbucks or whatever other coffee outlet that you may want to. I don't know if we're allowed to bring brands up, but anyway, by the by, it's too late now. You can edit that out later on. It's not like it's live or anything. So, but yeah, it's shifted massively. So, we're speaking to a lot of businesses that are going, well, how do I get insight into where potentially people are struggling working from home, and how can I go and make that intervention and supporting people with mental health concerns? And, that's a big part of what we do, is giving that insight into how people are at home, and even creating metrics that say this person potentially looks like they're struggling. You might want to go and have an intervention, not even to do with their stats, but picking certain things up through conversational analytics, picking certain things up in different data points that says this person might be struggling here, and you might want to go and have a conversation with them. So I think that's absolutely key, is supporting people, whether they're in office or working from home, and giving the team leaders, the ops managers, the ability to spot those little shifts where they maybe have seen that with visual management historically.
So question then on the back of that is around sort of scripting. So it's a very polarizing subject in the contact center world. And I've come across a lot of people. People tend to either be a massive fan of it or they're fundamentally, like categorically afraid of it. What's been your experience? Because obviously we sell a conversational guidance platform. It can be used for scripting. It can be used more as a framework, and we're quite agnostic of how that works. I know Jimmy's quite a big fan of scripting, and he talks quite vocally about that. But what's been your experience with that, and have you seen it done right?
Yeah, and I think, like you say, Jimmy's a massive advocate for this as his failed actor, and everything that goes with the best actors. I've always followed scripts, and I do completely get into that. I really do buy into that without a shadow of a doubt. I think where it works really well is there are certain parts of a conversation that you really get value from giving an agent or an advisor guidance and taking them through it. There are also other areas where you want people to be themselves. I'm thinking of potentially difficult situations where you want people to be able to show empathy and show some of the different emotions that really make them great contact center agents that really connect with their customers. I don't think scripting that necessarily all the time gives you the best value, because some people just read it out and sound like a bit of I'm really sorry to hear that you've had, this crash in your car, and, we will do everything we can. It doesn't come across necessarily in the way that person would best want to send that message. So giving them guidance as to, you may wish to show empathy at this situation because the customer's going through a difficult situation. They can then use their own words, but it comes across more heartfelt, and just kind of guiding people through. So I think for me, it's a combination of the two. I don't know whether that gets me in trouble with Jimmy or not, but it's too late now. Sorry, Jimmy, I've said it.
Giving them a reason rather than something.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think there's a couple of bits to that. I think one is about how that scripting's trained out. And I think you're right. Ultimately, if a tool just gets deployed and an agent gets told there's a script you need to read from that when you're speaking to the customer, or they get very little in the way of support in terms of what those scripts look like, no real time to practice them. I think if you're going to deploy scripting well, it needs like an actor will practice their script. They'll sound it to partners, they'll sound it to friends and family, they'll sound it to other acting members. And I think that's crucial to landing a script well.
Yeah.
If you're in the sort of environment where that's not possible, you haven't got the time to do it, then you're right. Like maybe it's a case of like there's a hybrid scripting solution somewhere where, the key points, the inflection points in the conversation are the bits where you'd kind of want to, use a bit of behavioral science to kind of sway the customer one way or another, or to kind of make the conversation more efficient. And I think it also depends massively on the experience of the agents. But in my mind, like where I see a lot of the conflict for that scripting is the agents on the call, and we all know that we've got a logic brain, we've got an emotion side of our brain. Using both of those at the same time is really hard to do, and it's almost impossible for some people. So by giving them the confidence that they're going to get to an outcome on one side, so they can more or less switch off their logic brain, which kind of maybe just tick it over in the background, actually then start to listen to your customer more. And to your point, then they can really start to shine through where their empathy. And I've met some fantastic agents who've absolutely saved some companies who hopefully are watching this. Your agents doing a fantastic job sometimes. Saving that conversation from the brink.
Incredible. Yeah, absolutely. And, there's been some unbelievable situations that have happened in the past and in my career where, people have been in some really horrendous situations, and the advisor at the end of their line has done incredible things, and I'm talking about some really serious situations that people have been in, and the advisors really supported that person, not as a business, but just as a person to person. So yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, that's true. But just to reference something you said before, Paul, as well, when you take that first call in a contact center, it's absolutely terrifying. You might have had 2 or 3 weeks worth of training, 4 weeks, 2 months, however long it is. But going on that first call is super daunting. But if you've got something that can help and guide you through that conversation and point you to the customer's got this issue, this is some of the stuff that you might want to talk to them about, and this will help you guide you through it. It just takes a little bit of that pressure away and that stress, and just enables people to get a little bit more of the best out of themselves, knowing that they've got a support that kind of helps and guides them through it. So yeah, it can be used multiple ways.
If you've got a seasonal peak and you bring a lot of new employees in, it's kind of good for that speed to competence as well, in terms of you can bring them onto the phones that little bit earlier. Yeah, they're still got to have the systems knowledge and the process knowledge that sits behind it all. But if you can reduce that by, 20%, 30%, then you're doing yourself and them a favor, because the quicker they get on the phone, the quicker they get that experience. Because, was it Mike Tyson said, you can have the best plan in the world until somebody gets up and punches you in the face. It's not quite that, but I love getting phrases wrong. Just wipes people up all over the internet. I'll be on Facebook as a meme next week. Wrong phrase, Paul. That'll be me. Well, look, Glynn, it's been fantastic having you on the show. I hope everybody kind of takes some of the points away from this. Try not to make it too salesy, because we're not a salesy business. Hopefully, some of the points that we've talked about have resonated with some people. If they have, brilliant, reach out, get in touch with us. If not, follow us, give us a watch on LinkedIn, follow the company page. Myself, Glynn, are both on LinkedIn. I'm very, very ridiculously, much to everybody else's annoyance, active on LinkedIn. I am Captain TMAC on LinkedIn.
He's actually got a team of 7 people that operate his LinkedIn, so he's like omnipresent. He's 25 hours a day, falls on there, so the team are working hard.
There's some truth in that there.
Yeah.
Before we go, Glynn, have you got any kind of last words that you'd like to kind of, what's the most important thing that you've learned in your time being at TMAC that you wish you'd known when you were on the side of the desk? Is there anything you'd pass on?
Oh, that's a tough question, Paul. It's always made last. Jeez, you thought this would be all organised in advance, and I know all the questions. That's not true. Is there anything that? Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's so much that we talk to people about demand and reduction in demand and improving performance and all this stuff. And I think that the one kind of key thing that I've learned over the last year or so, especially from a demand perspective, is it's not just about reducing what a business classes as kind of low value volume. You need to understand it from a customer perspective and understand what the customer finds valuable and what the customer doesn't find valuable. And the ones that they don't find valuable and you don't find valuable, they're probably the ones you want to automate. And it's just understanding more about what your customers are saying, what your agents are saying to your customers, and how you can really get the best value out of those interactions. Because, call centers are often seen as cost centers, and it's about changing that. My old boss, Alan McEwen, used to say about changing a cost center and turn them into value centers. And that's what contact centers should be, is driving value from every conversation for the customer, for the business. So yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Good answer. I like it. And that's really useful. I like it. And it's something that we're all quite passionate about within the business, to be fair, but you've kind of nailed it really well there in terms of how you differentiate that. It's not just about what the business sees as low value. It needs to be in conjunction with the customer perception.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Glynn. It's been a pleasure. First time.
No worries. Yeah, it was good. Next time I'll do a 30-minute house music DJ session. We'll do a AI would agree house music special. Yeah, count me in.
Fantastic. Well, next week, you'll all be pleased to know that we're back in our usual, I'm going to keep with the TV slogan here, we're back in our usual slot and at 3 p.m. next Thursday on my usual channel. So I'll see you there. Thanks very much for joining us.